Welcome to today's episode. Citadel Diana is the second in how many Russo Brothers shows?
5.
We're going to have 5 Russo Brothers shows, all set in the Citadel universe.
Yes, because as of now, we have Citadel, which came out in late April 2023, Citadel Diana. In less than 3 weeks, we have Honey Bunny, and then they also have a Spain and Mexico version that they plan on coming out, I think, next year.
Honey Bunny is the Indian version. This one is the Italian version. The first Citadel was the American version.
And that's not even counting Citadel Season 2, which is coming out in the 25 to 2026 season.
And they're all high-tech, high-stake espionage series set in different parts of the world. On this podcast, we like to review the most recent installments of a different series every show. It's Monday, October 21st, and with Halloween a little more than a week out, I assume that's why the main character of Citadel Diana, has that haircut. Because it is the strange, also it's set in 2030, but yes, it's the strangest haircut I've seen. And as an agent, a secret agent, one of the main things you're supposed to do is blend in. And it's the one thing that makes her stand out the most. So I find that a point of contention right off the bat.
You think people are going to notice that she's an agent because of her haircut?
If someone is supposed to be sneaking around and doing duplicitous things without anybody noticing, and then later on the police are like, hey, did you see anybody suspicious around here? Oh, there was that girl that had this huge asymmetrical haircut where one side of her hair is just like completely down. And it just looks like someone needs to bring scissors over and just snip it. Make it a bob. Just make it normal. But this is an interesting show because you've got a lot of cliches, a lot of spy stuff that you've seen before. But then, like you told me, the Russo brothers are trying to create an entire world of the same thing.
Well, okay, so the Russo brothers, they're executive producers for 4 of the other shows. They did work on the first show, like, hand in hand, but they
what
even
do you remember of the first show?
I remember it ended up on your worst of list. I remember you weren't a big fan of it. It started off with, like, a train sequence, right?
Yeah, so there's the 2 agents.
Yes.
You remember that? There's Rob Stark, and there's also
Richard Madden and Priyanka
is it
Chopra.
Nick Jonas's? Yeah. Priyanka Jonas.
Yeah.
And they are on a train, they're in love, they're agents, and it explodes, and they have their memories wiped because they have a brain device in there. They both work for Citadel. 8 years later, if I remember correctly.
It was 8 years, yes.
Yes, Stanley Tucci recruits Rob Stark to go find his ex-companion, and then they end up killing some of the Manticore agents.
Well, Citadel is wiped out, right? Citadel is wiped out. That's what the train sequence, yeah.
So they say. Both Citadel and Manticore are kind of like Control and Chaos, if you ever watched Get Smart. But they kind of both run the same idea that, like, we're here to help the world, but they're both corrupt and morally ambiguous. And so our main character here is Diana. She actually works for Citadel, but is an undercover agent in Manticore. It's set in 2030, which I'm not exactly sure is the original Citadel.
So, yeah, if you want to start making a timeline for Citadel shows, you should probably do it now, because I do believe that the train sequence in the intro to Citadel was 2022, and then, yeah, it was 8 years. So I think that the original Citadel takes place in 2030. So does this. Citadel Season 2 is going to take place a little bit after this, late 2030 to early 2031, but Citadel Honey Bunny is going to be a backflash where it starts off in 2000, but then it's going to jump back to 1992. So you can, and even David Wheel said that he is definitely open to jumping back and forth between the TV series and the timeline and everything.
Did they ever think of just making this one series and every single episode could just be a different country?
So that's the interesting aspect of it, right?
Is that the interesting aspect?
Because when you think about it, right, what's the biggest problem with, like, franchise shows or multiverse things like Marvel, DC? It's the fact that whenever but also movies and the TV series always seem to be setting up for so many different other movies. It's almost like
that's
they're not
even.
even.
It's like you wait until the ending just for a cliffhanger that then approaches.
They're not even
series.
Focused on really the story that they're telling. And
the
here,
end game, as it were.
Here, it seems like it's the exact same thing. It's like Citadel Diana, is it really actually telling a story, or is it just trying to set up for all these different spin-offs?
Episode 1, that's what was it called? Like Duel something or other? She has a dual
Divisa and Do. Split in two, that's what it means.
Split in two. Okay, so she's got like a dual mission. We do see flashbacks of Diana as a child, like 9 years, 8 years later, or before, where her parents were killed in some suspicious plane accident, and her sister had to figure out what happened to them. That's how she got recruited into Citadel. but she's trying to work on that still, and at the same time take Manticore down from the inside. And she, I think, is Agent 301 or 308. She kills her companion in this episode. So
At the beginning?
at the beginning, she's shooting herself to provide cover when the investigation turns around on her. But we first need to talk about the biggest problem in this show, which is the super contacts that she wears.
Super
It's
contacts.
2030, so it's plausible that in the next few years, we crack the ability to make Apple glasses or Google Glass or whatever into your eyeballs. But these things are pretty incredible for just even a secret agency. They're able to identify and disable security cameras wherever you're walking. She's able to steal cars with them, like fancy cars, because of the electronics in them, wiretap cell phones so that she can hear anybody's conversation as she's walking past them, undo hard locks on like doors, as long as they're, again, mechanical in some way, access CCTV footage and do searches, I guess, 24/7 while she's just walking around, facial recognition, and then also, I would think, recording so that she can play back that stuff for herself.
Is this supposed to be like the Google Glass Pro in like 10 years?
But this is 2030. Isn't it
Right.
crazy? 2030 isn't 10 years from now. When I first saw 2030, I was
wow,
like, that's
you're right,
really, really
yes.
far. And nope, it's not. It's like 5 years
I didn't
away.
I didn't even realize that until you just said it.
Yeah, I had that epiphany too. So split in two, Diana is sent on this mission. She's part of Manticore Italy with her partner, and they're supposed to go watch this meeting between Manticore agents of Germany and France, who are apparently going to make some sort of trade.
Uh-huh.
And so they make their way to part of the city where they're watching this go down, and Diana breaks mission protocol. She shoots one of the guys who has this, I guess it's called an apple, but it's nothing to do with Apple, the business.
Right.
It's literally a device that the guy just like falls on the table with. And the other guy goes running away. There's a car chase scene. And as they get, I think the guy escapes the car chase scene. She's able to nab that Apple device. And then her partner's like, you just screwed us over. Why'd you do that? And she has to go fight him. She kills him. Then she shoots herself in the arm to make it look like she was attacked.
What is this Apple device? Do they explain what it does?
No, until later. It's supposed to be very dangerous. You remember Kite Man? There's that briefcase that they're going around with that is going to destroy the world.
Lex Luthor has it, yeah.
It's always one of those things. It's a MacGuffin. So when she gets back to her agency, I was thinking, like, why wouldn't they just immediately extract the contacts, stop her from being able to connect to the internet, first of all? But also, you would think that they would have the recording on them, or even more, like in this original Citadel, right?
Yes.
They were able to clear these agents' minds from anywhere on Earth because they had like satellite control of their brains.
Right.
And yet they're not able to link in and see what she saw when she killed her partner.
If they were, it would remind me a lot of the Black Mirror season 1 finale.
These contacts are incredible. They're able to do anything. And you're saying that what we're able to do now with like police cameras, patch in and just see what the police are seeing, they couldn't do at their agency and see through their agent's eyes. It doesn't make any sense why they would need to do the investigation. She obviously is lying, and she says, I was attacked, or it wasn't my fault. See, I got shot, that type of thing.
Right.
But it works, and they release her. And it's just very strange. She now has the super secretive Apple device. Her contacts link her with the guy who appears on the guy who escaped. And she finds him and then makes this meeting happen where she's like still going to go through with that trade where he was originally going to pay the other guy money for that Apple device. And she says, I want to do it tomorrow, though. And then at the very end of the episode, she meets up with the subplot character who we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
And she says, we have to do something about this, blah, 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 blah. I stopped paying attention a little bit, but I assume what's going to happen is they're going to fall in love because even though this is all spy related series, it seems like everybody that they're casting for as the main two roles are just supposed to be love interests, right?
Right, yeah, because that's exactly what Richard Madden and Priyanka Chopra Jones was.
But like, why are they doing that? Why are they following so many cliches and then also making it a romance?
Well, from what I understand, you don't have to watch the first Citadel to get Citadel Diana, right? It's supposed to be its own singular story, I think, in each one.
There's stuff going on in the background, news stories and like exploded buildings, which I think relate to the first season. So I think it's there as Easter eggs or just for reference if you were. But no, I guess I was able to understand it. I have a lot of thumbs down for this show,
A
though.
lot of
Like,
thumbs down.
yes,
Okay.
first of all, I said the contact issue was my main problem because I'm like,
Especially because you showed me the clip where it was like there was this device. Was that the Apple device where it was like able to transform? There was
no,
this
no, no, no.
item.
See, you would think that that would be a dangerous device, but no, they have nanotechnology or something that allows them to make a baton into any weapon at like a whim. And Manticore already owns that. I think what this Apple device is, it's going to link into like some sort of nuclear reactor and have it explode or something. I don't know. But yeah, so it takes a while to get off the ground because in the last 5 minutes, we're given this sequence between her, Diana, and her past self, the version from 9 years earlier who was searching for the reason why her parents died.
Right.
What caused that, why the black box was discarded for a really long time. And it takes 5 minutes for her to go through a building and then ascend up an elevator. That's why I say it takes a while to get off the ground.
Okay, nice.
Her haircut is so wild, it's hard to take seriously.
That haircut point just seems to be like one that you're
I can't be the only
sticking
one who
with.
says that. When you get into the reviews and you tell me that no one mentioned the haircut, I will be shocked. Disclaimer got props. I gave that to Quaron because what he did was, even in the boring dialogue scenes, you never got distracted or annoyed because there'd always be people in the background doing interesting things, going about their day. It seemed like it was made for people with ADHD. And with this, they went with a very minimalist type of atmosphere. They're going for the equilibrium world, the one where like sort of authoritarianism has taken over. And so what has happened is that there's not as many people walking around in the streets. And so there's not as much to be entertained by when you have this common dialogue just going back and forth and it's kind of predictable.
What I remember with Equilibrium was that that was a movie where it's like they couldn't feel anything, right? It was like an outlaw for feelings.
It's very sleek. And like just the background shots it's so empty, you know?
Huh.
And I guess that's where they put money into. I just don't understand how that's...
Yeah, so that's been my main thing that I've been trying to realize. I don't know what the budget was for this show. Citadel, the original, was very open, saying it had $300 million. I think
Was it not the most expensive show
ever
made?
It was one of them, and I think $200 million was just spent on reshoots. Here, they say it's a big budget show, but they don't actually come up with a number.
I assume it isn't cheap. But with 400 plus shows airing each year, why invest your time in this if it's not going to fill a gap that any other spy show wouldn't do or romance wouldn't do? We've seen in movies, I mean, even Bad Boys 2, they have fancy gadgets and fight scenes and car chases and forced romances. What is the point of this universe? It feels like it's a less self-aware version of Kingsman, because Kingsman knew it was goofy. Kingsman had heads blowing up, and although there would be moments of drama where you would feel bad for the main characters, it also wasn't afraid to make comedy happen. And this, it feels like it takes itself way too seriously. It's one of those shows that likes to sniff its own butts.
Well, when you look at Amazon Prime, it makes sense because they have spy shows galore. You have Alex Rider, Jack Ryan, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Patriot, Terminal List, Reacher, Hunters, Citadel, Hannah, The Man in the High Castle.
And that's only what? Prime?
Yeah, that's only Amazon Prime.
I mean, you
originals.
have Slow Horses on Apple. Like,
Slow Horses just came out with its season 4 finale the day before this premiered.
Right, and that's not even getting into movies.
Yeah.
The amount of movies that are spy related. I mean, this is 301, 308, 007, in Agent Why the Last Man. You had Agent 355. They always go by numbers. My point is, yeah, there's no lack of this stuff. And it because it takes itself too seriously, that's another con of mine. The fact that they speak Italian and English and they mix up they hybridize the dialogue usually is a pro. But here, it feels like the only purpose in them doing that, because they go and one character will say a line in English and then the other one will have to respond in English for no reason. It feels like they're doing it just to show that they can. Like they spent up for actors or dialogue coaches
that was
who taught them that.
That was what you said, though, I think was a pro in the original Citadel, was that they had like 4 different languages going on.
I may have been giving Priyanka Chopra more credit there, though, because she is used to doing like Indian films and stuff. And so like her doing it was more authentic, I guess, than our main character here. I will give the main character a really interesting prop, because usually when they recast characters as a younger version, especially one like her, I wouldn't be upset with the show if they decided to go a different actress. That's what I thought they did. with her and her sister. But no, spectacularly, if you see the versions of them when they are kids in this thing, dancing to see a chandelier and enjoying themselves or grieving their parents' loss, it may just be the haircut, honestly, but it looks shockingly different. I had to like pause, and because Amazon Prime has the X-ray
Right.
thing, I found out it is the same person. It doesn't look like the same person, and she significantly looks younger in one than the other, and same with the sister. I was impressed by that.
They
So there's a
said
problem.
they said when they were writing for it that they had to write 2 different Dianas, and the main actress also did 90% of her own stunts, spent 4 months in the gym driving cars, learning stunts, and even met Chopra Jones and Ruth Prabhu at the Citadel premiere when it premiered back in 2023. So I know that yeah, she's gotten also kind of acclaim for her role, but would you say this is worse than the original Citadel?
The original Citadel, if I remember correctly, it was a while back.
Right.
My main complaints were about, I think, the memory wipes and that the 8 years. And I think that they held their memories in a briefcase, and then Rob Stark broke the briefcase. And then that part I think there were a lot more things to nitpick all the plot errors. This one, it's really just one big plot error. With the fact that they are not able to see what she saw with when with her goggles, or
Right.
the other subplot that I realized we haven't gotten into is that agents of Manticore, the Italian agent who owns her sect or faction, right? They are meeting with the French and the German versions down in their lair on this goofy, huge table that makes the Citizen Kane table look small. It's like Arthur's, what was it, Knights the Round Table. Like it's literally
Right.
that big, as it could fit 1,000 people, yet there's only like 4 or 5 people.
If you were
on
to
it.
sit at the ends of the tables,
That's
you
what
would
they
have
did.
you would have a phone call. You would have to like be on a phone to understand what the person's saying.
Yeah, you could call in Charlie Chaplin or someone, and that could be like a joke from back in the day where one man would be on one side and a lady would be on another. But in this, they're just having an argument over who's going to control what. And I think the main love interest to Diana is propositioned for a marriage, because everything is about family, even in secret agent land, which reminded me a little bit of Archer. But they wanted to unite the families so that they would have more control, I guess. And the guy is kind of hesitant about doing that. And from what I understand, I think that he's going to try to take his father down and Manticore down, kind of as Priyanka Chopra was trying to take down Citadel. I think because they realized
Right.
Citadel was the one who was like evil there. They're going to realize Manticore is evil, that they're all evil. It's kind of a retread in that way where they realize the family business is evil. And so they have to do that. Another retread is the fact that Diana's parents did perish in the way that they did, causing her to become Batman in a way, that past trauma that
Yep.
leads her to make the decisions that she does. The Zanny family is the one that, particularly Ito is the name of the guy who is the love interest, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, right. Ito Zani.
So yeah, the subplot was pretty snooze-worthy to me. I don't think that they had enough time to really develop Ito's character. I'm sure that he'll become a bigger part in the series.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because Citadel originally came out with 2 episodes and then released them weekly. This just decided to release all 6 episodes in one day. So it almost feels like they saw the reviews for the original Citadel and then they decided, you know what, we're just going to release the whole thing and see what people feel about it. I do know that on IMDb, and I don't want to try and influence your opinion, but that the pilot is like the lowest rated out of the whole entire series.
Okay.
So,
all right.
what would you be giving the pilot?
Should I go through my pros?
Oh,
They're really,
you're
they're really
pros.
short.
Okay, yeah,
They're
go
really
ahead.
short.
Go ahead.
So ask me what I thought about Mission Impossible 7.
What did you think about Mission Impossible 7?
I didn't like it that much, but ask what the wider public viewed it as.
What did the wider public view it
Critical
as?
acclaim.
Yeah, I got like a
96%,
98. Okay, yeah.
94% on Rotten Tomatoes for the audience part, 96 critical. I'm highly critical when it comes to these type of shows, even those type of movies. I'm not really impressed by, I guess, the glamour of a cool car chase scene or something.
I
Unless
can't
there's
think of
something-
a spy movie that you really ever liked that much.
They're out there. I just also can't think right off the top of my head of anyone in particular. I do like some of the Mission Possibles more than others. That last one was just not it for me. And I do find the title of the next upcoming Citadel, Honey Bunny, like that just sounds funny. And then I've also been to Milan, where
Right.
a lot of the series takes place, where apparently this is where their base is. And so I didn't see any secret agents working there while I was there. But
they shot the series in Italy, Sicily, Lombardy, Rome, Ticino, and Switzerland.
And we just talked about how rare it is to find some place that shoots in Italy TV shows when we were talking about, what was it, Disclaimer?
Disclaimer, yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool that we almost got 2 in a row. And so what was my, okay, I didn't expect to hear Chandelier. That was another pro. I was really grasping for pros here. And then as stupid as the contacts were, and that the miracle metal that turns into any weapon is, I would still want it. I would still go out and buy it at Apple if they were selling it there. So my verdict for this thing, though, as a whole, is 4 out of 10. Citadel
4 out of 10.
is, like you said, one of the most expensive series ever made. This one just doesn't feel like it's offering anything more than what we saw already. We're getting a lot of cliches things, from shooting yourself to avoid suspicion. When is that going to stop being used in film?
All the time.
Just always turn that gun right. Oh, how did you? And then they always are suspicious of it. It's never like, oh, they get completely away with it. It always seems like they're suspicious. The parents dying suspiciously, unable to tell your family about your secret life. That's very Chuck. She can't tell her sister. She suffers Meniere's disease, which I guess they added into her report. So she gets dizzy sometimes and faints. I guess it's very handy if you can always write yourself into a situation where she gets a little dizzy. And so, like, oh no, extra tension added to that scene. And so, but it doesn't actually affect your lifespan or anything.
To portray the futures.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you were talking about like kind of authoritarianship before. To portray the future, they drew inspiration from Mussolini's Italy to create Milan in 2030. That's what they were using.
Yeah. And it's most expressed when you see the lack of public people like walking around, like nowadays with 8 billion people on the planet in a very beautiful spot in the world. You would think that there would just be constant movement, and instead you just have a few people. That's why that haircut is going to stand out so much. And it's not as bad as The Veil. I will say that. That's
right. The
that
Veil.
Series,
Veil, you gave like 2 out of 10 to.
Elizabeth Moss's series was just, she was way too cocky in that. And it's funny because like women-centric shows, I watched like 3 in a row where Sweet Pea, there's the episode in Penguin, Sophia, what's her
episode
Falcone?
4, yeah.
Yeah. And then this, and like those other 2 were amazing. And then this one, it was just so like droll. And yeah, so we will get to Sweet Pea, I think, eventually. But,
the overall show has been actually rated higher than the original Citadel. It has an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 5.9 on IMDb.
Is a 5.9 good now?
Well,
like for that amount of money?
Just compared to Citadel, 6.2 on IMDb, 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think people are really looking at the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
I don't know if as many people are watching this who didn't go out to try to find it.
Well, I mean, Forbes came out. Well, actually, that's not true, because this did amazing viewership-wise. Say what you want about the reviews, but it was a streamer success, and after 1 week, it broke records, becoming the biggest global launch for an Italian original series ever, entering the top 5 in almost 150 countries, and even attracting more people to tune into the U.S. version of Citadel in the U.S., UK, and Italy. So much so, the original Citadel outpaced Citadel Diana and displaced Rings of Power Seasons 2 finale, after it occupied that spot for a week, and Citadel Diana ended up at number 2.
I have Amazon Prime, and I think this is an instance of where international audiences were having this thrown in front of them more than U.S. audiences, because this was not advertised like we see a lot of. We're getting the freaking Young Sheldon preview of the previous. What is it, Maggie and something or whatever?
Yeah, right.
About the grandparents or something. Yeah, so that's the stuff we're seeing in front of our eyes advertised to us. We're not getting Citadel Diana. I'm assuming in Italy it was all over the place. In Europe it was probably shown all over the place on the billboards and everything.
Well, it was the 2nd most watched new original series on Amazon Prime, and then the 4th most watched in the U.S. after 24 days. So, I mean...
For this month.
Yeah, for this month.
For this month.
Yeah,
yes.
So, I mean, it's, I think that, like, especially with Honey Bunny, that it can only fare well for it.
Well, with an Indian audience? Yeah, absolutely. There's billions of them, so sorry, that just sounded weird. I mean, like billions of people, yes.
Forbes came out saying that Amazon's Citadel Diana is reviewing better than the original Citadel. And then Comic Book Resources gave the series 7 out of 10. And then Decider said stream it. However, Collider actually gave it the score that you gave it. They gave it 4 out of 10. And they said specific action sequences work, but that relies too heavily on familiar spy tropes.
So tropey. Thanks for listening. I guess that'll be it for this episode. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.